And welcome to a new Energy Crew podcast. I'm your host, JP Warren. And I want to thank everyone out there for tuning in. And I want to say that Energy Crew podcast is brought to you by Exec Crew. Exec Crew is going to be a new, dynamic, evolving network of professional executives that will come together to learn, share, and teach stuff about their passions, what their strengths are, and what they're dealing with, what their struggles are and vulnerabilities are. And this is launching Q4, and it's going to be great. It's going to be dynamic. It's going to be passion-fueled mentorship, and that kind of goes into what we are talking about today on Energy Crew Podcast. And I'm excited to have my my buddy up there and tuning in from recording from Fort Worth, Texas. Is that correct, Wesley?
Yes, sir. Fort Worth, Texas.
All right. We have, for those that probably are listening to this in the car, you're like, wait a minute, I know that voice. I know that voice on every Texas country singing hit radio station out there. This is the legend, Wesley Hanna, not only the VP of engineering at Burnett Oil, but also someone that actually followed his passion and started pursuing his passion, whatever. Just deal with me. It's Friday afternoon, everyone. Started pursuing his passion and started kind of following his itch when it comes to singing and songwriting and playing the guitar for some Texas country. I'm not sure if you identify as Texas country, but that's what the point of this. We're going to talk about this. So Wesley, thank you for joining us today on Energy Crew Podcast. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, JP, man. Thank you for having me.
So let me ask you a question. Obviously, your first, okay, look, before we kind of get into kind of your background and all that stuff, when did your first album kind of get dropped on like Spotify and Apple and all that? So when did this happen? It was kind of not that long ago.
Yeah, so this is my first solo record. I've made a record in the past, back when I was attending Texas A&M, but this record came out in October of 22. So hadn't been out a year yet. Still pushing it. Still getting those songs out there and playing for folks, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I want to get into all of that fun stuff real quick, but real quick for those that don't know who you are, why don't you give us a little quick background on kind of your who you are, where you grew up, and kind of what brought you kind of into your profession today. In the oil field, and then I kind of want to talk about what brought you your profession into the kind of the music scene. So, if you want, just kind of, so you went to A&M, but where'd you grow up, and kind of kick us off like that.
Yes, sir. So, grew up around the Houston area. Graduated from Magnolia High School, and after high school, actually, it was probably halfway through high school. Picked up the guitar. Started playing around in my room every day, and then went off to college at Texas A&M and kept that going and started playing open mics and doing songwriter stuff like that. At the time, I was pursuing my degree in petroleum engineering, so that's how I got into the oil and gas business.
So are you first generation oil field?
Yes, sir. Technically, yes, sir. I have uncles and stuff that were in it, but not. Like my parents weren't in it, none of that. So yes, sir, first generation oil field.
And what actually led you to pick up the guitar? I mean, it's always funny whenever you hear about these, the famous, musicians, kind of what started them on their career. It's always like, but it always boils down to like I forget what I was reading. I don't know if it was like Gene Simmons or something like that. It's like every musician out there starts to pick up the guitar. Majority of them, not everyone, obviously. To get the girls. You know what I mean? And so what was your what was your motivator? Because my wife's a musician also. I don't think she picked it up to get the girls. I just think she, that kind of runs into her blood. But what was kind of the inspiration for you to kind of pick up the guitar and start, I guess, jamming out?
Yeah, it definitely helped with getting girls to talk to me. Pretty shy when I was a kid, man. So it definitely helped, and got some funny stories about that, but those are for another time. But no, really what got me picking up the guitar was, I grew up loving music. I love especially country rock music, and I ended up just wanting, I don't know, I've always had like a urge to entertain folks. I like, even if it's just, cooking dinner for somebody or whatever. I mean, that kind of gets me going. And so, and music was just something that was, easy, and it came natural to me. It's not easy, but just came natural to me. I have a pretty decent ear for musical notes and things like that, and pitch and whatnot. And so that was just natural to me. And so I say, hey, I need to start playing guitar. And actually, I played the saxophone. I was a band kid for a while in junior high. So started out playing the saxophone before I played the guitar.
Dude, I'm not going to knock anything. In 4th grade and 5th grade, I was playing the violin, okay? Or as we call it in Texas, the fiddle. So I'm not going to, listen, I'm not going to knock anything, all right?
No, but that's I say the guitar was not my first instrument. And so I got into high school and decided, I'm tired of, video games are fun. I used to play video games and stuff, and, GoldenEye, whatever, go hanging out with boys. But I was like, man, I need something to do. I'm bored to tears. Here's a guitar for, 17th birthday. Here you go. And my mom was kind of like, hey, you need one of these. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. And said, I love music, singing in the car or whatnot. So I just started teaching myself how to play, play chords. I really started playing like Nirvana stuff, like, grunge music. I mean,
yeah. So is this the type of stuff that you find like Guitar Magazine, or like you go to YouTube and you're like, okay, well, how do I play this? And you get your fingers right and you start strumming. I mean, I guess, how did you kind of like fall into like, I guess, playing the chords and kind of transferring the chords to music, like songs?
Well, I'm old school. I wish YouTube would have been around when I was learning. That would have helped me out probably leaps and bounds. I've gotten a lot better quicker than I did. But just read, having music books, people would show me a couple chords here and there, and learning them from, you get chord charts. Most guitar players, you find they'll have a big giant book. It's mail-based encyclopedia chords. And you open that thing up and say, how do I play this? And you learn these chords, and you practice switching between, and then you work your way up into, just strumming along, and then listening to songs, and you can go, usually it's easy to find music, especially chords. I mean, it's just words and chord changes, for country music, Texas country. So you go find your favorite Pat Green song, and, print that out and go in there and try to strum it and learn it. Learn the Boys from Oklahoma, pick up the harmonica, try to learn that. It just grew from there.
So for someone that started, I guess, their music journey before YouTube, okay. So I obviously we don't have to date ourselves here. We're not here on Energy Crew to date ourselves or to provide any age discrimination. But you started you got your degree, you got your petroleum engineer degree. You started working, and here you are. You just released your first album, your first solo album, in October of 2022. There is some time between, I guess, when you picked up your guitar when you were 17 years old, playing in college, getting the open mic nights. I want to talk about kind of, I guess, what was first off that experience like, to realize like whether you have the talent or whether you have the guts of just standing behind a mic in front of people to play is very nerve-wracking. It's very uncomfortable. You are literally putting yourself out there.
Open mic night is the perfect place. Yeah. So open mic night is like probably the best place to go figure that out, because it's a bunch of folks in there that are wanting to get up, and a lot of first timers, or young musicians or comedians or whatever it may be, that want to get up there and get in front of people and get their show in front of people. And so it's great because you get up there and you're in front of a crowd, and hopefully there's a decent crowd there. There may not be, go on a Monday night, it might be 5 people there, but it's a good chance to get up there. And then you can kind of find out and get your feel for the stage and stage presence and things like that. And, now, I mean, not that I'm not nervous when I play, but, a lot of people talk about stage fright. Like I don't have that. I mean, and I think the oil field, working in the oil field helps with that. I'm going to segue into that because, I mean, you're in a lot of high pressure situations out in the field, especially when you're, calling the shots on a job, whether you're like on a fishing job or a frack job or drilling a well, whatever it might be. mean, a lot of times you have to make some split decisions on some things, and that kind of skill set that you develop out there. I mean, it really, it's like, if I'm not scared to go do that, why am I scared to stand up in front of these people and sing for them?
Well, I mean, I would assume that, but I like the kind of the similarities between that. It's like there is a lot of important decisions with pretty high impactful outcomes from these decisions. So there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety behind that. And I guess if you can transfer that to kind of ease the anxiety of getting in front of people and singing, I think that's pretty impressive. So let me ask you. So okay, so you're working your career, and you've started elevating your career. Now you're sitting, vice president of engineering. Okay, what was, I guess, the moment for you when you, I guess, had the realization, or not the realization, the itch, or the motivation to say, you know what, I'm going to take a little time and focus on my album, my solo album, and all that stuff. I guess, what was kind of the was it a calling? Was it an itch? Was it just something that you just had to do? I mean, kind of talk me through that process. Because the reason why I'm asking, because like it seems like the more elevated you get in the more elevated people get in someone's career, or established in someone's career, it seems like everything else, like all the other passions or hobbies, kind of they don't take center stage, okay? Because your professional career is. So for you to be at this level and still pursue this personal passion, this personal goal, I want to hear about that a little bit. Kind of what was the calling, what was the motivation and push behind that?
So what kind of kicked it off was the lockdowns during COVID. So,
okay,
we're sitting around in our house, and we're working from home remotely and whatever, but then you're at home watching Tiger King or whatever's keeping you sane during that time. And we're sitting out here and talking to some of my neighbors, and one of my neighbors, he knew I did music before, and was like, "Hey man, you still have sound equipment?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've got a little PA system in my garage." And so he said, "Man, would you mind like doing something like outside? We can just set it up in your backyard. I'll help you do whatever, but just get it going out here and give people something to do other than sit in their house all day. And we can get outside in the sunshine, and at least people who want a social distance, whatever, but we're outside, we're having a good time, and you're playing music." So I was like, "Hey man, sounds like a good idea. Let's try that out." So I did a little kind of series and actually filmed it or live streamed it on Facebook, and somehow figured out how to do that. A lot of musicians were figuring out how to do that. So
I noticed that. You know what? You're right. I did notice that during COVID, there was a lot of musicians that started focusing on doing these live streams. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so got that going, was playing, and then it turned into something, man. And like the last one I did, I think we did it for like 8 weeks. And the last one we did, there were probably 70 people in my backyard, and I knew maybe 30 of them. And we had a taco truck in the front, and I was just waiting for, I don't know, COVID police to come shut us down or whatever. So at that time, I think things had eased up, but I was like, "Hey man, this is too much fun. I miss it." And I did a little bit of it when I was living out in Midland before I moved to Fort Worth. Would go play at church or Max Barbecue, places like that where I could get in, but there's not a whole lot of in West Texas as there are here in Fort Worth, and there's a huge local music scene going on. And one thing's kind of calmed down with all the pandemic stuff. I got into it, and then there was a deal that our local radio station here had a little thing going on. It was kind of a local music showdown deal, and I entered one of my older songs on there, and it did pretty well and got a good response, and got to go do an interview on the radio. And I was like, "Man, this is too much fun. I can't just leave this line here." So took that. I had some songs that I had written right after I finished my first album, and then I started writing again because I was playing music. It's like part of your brain that I quit using for a long time, really actively anyway. And so just kind of woke back up, and I was like, "Hey, I'm writing lyrics now again. I'm writing these songs. I've got a collection of songs here. I need to take those and do something with them. And I wanted for some time, I said, if I ever get enough songs again to do the record I want to do, I'm going to put that out. And so it all kind of came together. And I said, hey man, let's push for it, and booked some time in the studio and went from there.
I mean, I think that sounds kind of cool. It's one of those things. I mean, you're right. COVID was definitely a difficult time for a lot of people, but also I think it gave people the space, maybe the opportunity, the time to. I mean, look at our industry. You went from 1,200 rigs to under 200 or something like that. Within 4 or 5 months or something like that. So there wasn't a lot to do. So it did allow people that space, that time, that creative runway to pursue different things. I mean, for me, it was a podcast. I've never done one before, but I got the time, I got the space now, so I'm going to start doing this. And I love how that you dust off your old equipment, you start playing, and you start kind of getting these like little dings of like confirmation. You have 70 people in your backyard. 30 of them. You succeed at the the live stream and succeed at this local music radio show. Next thing you know, you're here. So you're kind of getting all these green lights in your way, as Matthew McConaughey says, all these green lights, So let me ask you a question. So you're sitting here now, it's been released October. What has been that experience for you? And first off, let's talk about this album real quick, so people can kind of, if they're tuning in, once you get off this podcast, you can kind of find it on wherever you kind of get your music, Apple, Spotify, or wherever. So talk to me about this album a little bit, and kind of how you created it.
Yeah. So like I said, after I finished my last album, which was back in like 2008 when I was going to school.
Whoa. Okay.
I was still writing some songs, and I had some songs that I wrote, after we were wrapped up in the studio. I was like, man, these are pretty good. We can work on the next record. And then, graduation happened, life happened, and kind of had to put it to the side for a little bit. But I knew it was like, hey, again, if I get the songs I want, the collection of songs I want together, I want to put a record out. And started writing again, got into the studio, and I went to the same studio I'd worked at before, who'd done work with some of my favorite artists, and I was comfortable there and knew what their capabilities were, and also the players that they were going to be able to get to put on the record, some of my favorite country players out there. And so there was that piece of it. And once we got the recordings done, I'm fortunate enough to be married to a marketing person and who also does graphic design. So she was able to do like my album art, all that stuff. You don't think about that kind of stuff, but it's a big part of it. Album art, liner notes. So we were able to get everything we needed put together to take it to print, to actually make physical CDs. And then I joined up with a group here in Fort Worth called Smith Music, which is part of like the Billy Bob's family. Okay. And they do digital distribution. So I'm sure you're familiar with that with podcasts. You have something that hosts your, you upload your recordings, and then it all goes out. Distribute to all the major, all goes out. So got that going and got it out there, and I released a couple singles, a couple songs ahead of the album release to kind of get it going. And learning the music business again, it's changed so much in the last 15 years when I was really into it. And so it's been a lot of fun. Figuring all those things out.
What aspects of the industry have you seen were kind of the biggest changes for you that you saw? I mean, obviously, you have
music,
the digital distribution.
It's just everything's gone digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's mainly just everything going digital.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. So you get the album. So you got this itch. Okay. You start scratching this itch, you have your in-house marketing guru, your better half, putting this all out there. Okay. You're in the studio, you're putting the album together. Okay. You're kind of getting closer. And finally, October, your album dropped. I remember because we were at a crew club event. I think it released that week when you were sitting next to each other. You told me that. I would assume, and of course, I would assume after something like this, you're like, okay, finally did it. Feather in the cap. I'm done. I'm good and all that stuff. But it seems like once that's not the end of anything. That's the start of something, it seems like. Because now, from what I've seen, obviously I follow you on social media, and you are constantly on the grind, playing, putting out shows, being in front of people, constantly doing this, whether it's these live shows or what that is. How is that, I guess, kind of, once you put it out there, you don't realize, I guess, the time that comes when it comes to promoting, when it comes to playing, when it comes to booking gigs and all that stuff. How's that been, I guess, bouncing everything in your life?
Yeah, it's been fun trying to figure out where to fit it all in. Definitely don't have as much free time.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of fun. It's gratifying too. It's something that's fulfilling. So yeah, it sometimes can be overwhelming, but you've got this, this gratification of doing something you love to do. And it's sometimes you're like, man, why am I doing all this for? This is a lot of work. Like you said, all the social media stuff, you got to take the time to make flyers and things like that, and schedule posts and make sure everybody knows you're getting out there, and make t-shirts and hats and merch and stuff like that. It is a lot. And again, it doesn't hurt to have a marketing guru for a wife. So that helps out more than but it's just, and it's a team effort too, man. And she actually started playing bass with me. She played the bass when she was like, I don't know, 14, 15.
Okay.
And, kind of like I played the saxophone when I was that age.
Yeah.
And like the big, giant stand-up bass. I've got one over here.
The orchestra bass. Yeah.
And and so she was like, man, I'm kind of thinking about playing this thing again. I was like, do it. And so she learned all my songs. And whenever my album dropped, we had a release party. And so she got up there and played with me on those songs. And it was a lot of fun.
And that is so awesome.
She's playing full sets with me now. So that's pretty fun. I mean, and we'll do those shows, and I'll play shows, solo shows. And got a guy here in town that I met that's actually met him on Instagram. He's a kind of a newbie to Fort Worth and great fiddle player. He's playing with me now. And so, we'll do these shows and go out there, and said it's a lot of fun entertaining folks. And we play a lot of that old school classic country. It's not even as much there. Yeah, it's got the Texas aspect of it, and it's very much Texas country. But when you think about it, it's really more similar to what you heard, what I heard on the radio when I was a kid back in the early 90s. Now, even before that, when I was growing up and listening to the radio in Houston, it was just, like George Strait and Alan Jackson and Mark Chestnut and guys like Tracy Lawrence, all that, the 90s country back when it was pretty traditional. The way my sound has gone, and again, there's still a lot of the Texas country aspect and songwriter aspect.
So how would you define yourself? I probably introduced you then if I said Texas. How would you define, I guess, your style of music? No,
it's Texas country for sure. It's man, it's hard to do. They've got everything called now. It's not, you've got mainstream country that's, if you go turn on like one of the big radio stations, I don't even.
Do you like that? Do you like that stuff, or is that junk?
No.
Okay, good.
To me, it's junk. I'm an old man.
Yes.
It's not my
my
thing. Not my cup of tea. If it is yours, great. But
yeah, if it's yours, I dig it, but it's not mine either. Yeah.
I like, the good lyrics, good instrumentation. I don't want to listen to something with a backing track on it,
with a bullshit story. So, okay, let me ask you a question. Okay, this, this starts, obviously, all the time and effort. And let me ask you a question. I mean, people often see people that pursue their passions like, oh man, must be so lucky. All he has to do is, get up and play music, oh, it's got to be so easy and lucky and all that stuff. What are some of the realities? Like, the grass always isn't, greener, or like the comparison culture isn't always that. What are some real, I guess, kind of realities that you deal with, getting up and singing, or constantly kind of putting on shows for people? I mean, what's the reality once it hits you?
Yeah.
Hello? It's cut off?
Yeah. Yeah, just for a second. I was just making sure it kind of.
Well, a little delayed time.
Second,
yeah. So I guess, people see you get up there. There's, it's probably like, oh wow, living his dream. He's, he's got this, job. He's also doing, got this album, and he's singing for people and all this stuff. But what's kind of some of the realities, kind of from you behind the mic, that's kind of your experience with living your, I guess, your dream out?
Yeah. So just time management things, juggling all these shows, like, hey, yeah, I got to be here at a certain time. Like, and I'll play sometimes during the week, just by, mainly I'll do solo shows. Yeah. And I don't do any more of these play till 2 a.m. gigs anymore, like I did when I was a college kid, but I will do, play till 11 or something like that. And then get up 5 o'clock, go to work the next day. That's a rough day.
That is right.
But it's if you're gonna be, I think it was, I can't remember, somebody I saw some kind of quote, and it was one of the bigger country singers, something, maybe Chris Stapleton or somebody said, like, if you're gonna be a dreamer, you got to be a doer. You're not just gonna walk up there and start singing and be the next Taylor Swift. You've got to put the time in and the effort, and not that I'm going to be the next Taylor Swift by any means, or
I don't know. Don't say that. You might be. You might
famous,
don't say that. But look, okay, so I mean that's a good point. I mean, let's talk about that. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if I want that kind of attention.
Well, you know what? I'd be one of your Swifties. No problem. But let's talk about that. I love that concept you just said, that quote you just said about dreaming and doing. Okay. A lot of times, I mean, I get in a situation personally where it's like, I have an idea where I want to do, like, I have like 700 ideas that I want to do, and then there's some might be great, some might be trash. However, I noticed that kind of the same thing. Like, if I don't take any steps or any action towards these ideas that I have, nothing happens at all. So the ability to have an idea and put just a little bit of time, a little bit of energy, a little bit of effort in that, and seeing kind of where that can kind of take you, to me, that's a huge piece of advice out there for anyone trying to pursue a passion, or just kind of maybe have a side project or a dream that you want to pursue. It's doing those little things, doing those little efforts towards that goal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just, and you gotta eat the elephant one bite at a time. You can't just rush through it and get it all done. It's one of those deals where you got to take it step by step and really, put your focus into it, put your time into it, and plan, lay it out in front of yourself. And, hey, this is what I got to do to get to this point. It's setting goals for yourself, and the big goal you want to achieve, and breaking it up into smaller goals. Like, hey, if I get here, then I can move on to this next step and get here. And it's just stepping stones along the way. And that's how recording an album works out. And just, getting into what I'm doing, it's just getting out there and getting to play different places. And I got to play at one of my bucket list stages a couple weeks ago in Lukenbach, Texas.
Did you really? Okay, tell us about that story. Give us some stories from the road. How about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, my wife plays bass with me, and it was actually when we were promoting the album, did a show in my hometown of Magnolia, and we're up there playing a show, and guy comes up, people come and talk to you after you're done playing and say, hey, great show or whatever. Like, you guys, you ought to be doing this or that. And this guy walks up and says, "Hey man, you want to play Lukenbach?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And like, this guy's, full of it. He's there's no way,
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I sponsored this festival up there, and man, I think I can get you on the bill." And I was like, "Okay, well, cool. Here's my number. Here's my card. Let's get in touch." And I never heard from him, which is pretty typical after you play a show. You get somebody, "Hey, hey, you need to do this," and then you usually don't hear anything back. Well, a few months go by, and we actually did a scheduled a follow-up show there. Play there probably twice a year or something. So let's say 6 months later.
Okay.
Go out there and we're playing, and he's there, and he comes back up and he says, "Hey man," I was like, "Yeah, let's make this happen." So called me the next day, and we got it all figured out, and I got to kick this festival off, and it was my wife Stacy played with me, and it was so much fun, man. Just getting to be there in that atmosphere in that place, and we love it out there. It's still a lot of history out there, and just it's one of those bucket list places to play. You've got as a musician, you've got to places you've either been to or you've listened to live albums from this venue or whatever it is. You're like, all right, I want to play that stage. Billy Bob's is one of those. That's a goal. That's probably a long way off goal, but it's a goal.
Do you have you can't, maybe not. I mean, you never know. I mean, how fast, if you put the effort towards it. I mean, I completely agree. What is your little process, or what do you go through before you kind of take the stage and kind of get on stage and start jamming out? What goes on behind the curtain?
Man, I just I like to have a plan, number one. So set list is a big part of it. So it's a lot of prep, just making sure what you're going to play. And then some of it's feel, you read the room, and you get up there, and you see where your crowd is and who's out there, and part of it's just engaging the crowd as well. I've had to learn how to do over the years. It does not come natural to me. The singing part and all that does, but the engaging the crowd does not come natural to me. But it's something that I've learned to do and gotten better at over the years. And it's one of those things, man. If you can get their attention and get them into it, pull them in, and it's a fun ride, man. You just get everybody in the station wagon. Let's go.
What's your favorite part about doing a show? Is it the anticipation before? Is it the crowd? Is it after having that high of, man, I just sung to this many people. I just did it. What is, I guess, your favorite, part of the ride?
It's just playing the songs, and especially when you get to connect with people. If people are into it, that's a different kind of high, man. It's pretty cool. And especially when they're connecting to your songs that you wrote.
Yeah.
It's one thing to get up and play cover songs. And I've had people tell me this before. They're like, "Hey man, not that your covers sound bad, but when you play your songs, like, you're pouring it out there." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wrote the song, and I hope so. That's what I'm trying to do. That's how I want to deliver that song to you. And they're like, "Keep doing it." And I'm like, all right, that's all I need to hear,
So so you're obviously, we're gonna say how people can find you and reach you and kind of go see you and all that stuff. So let me ask you a question. So obviously, I would say I almost said stable job, but then again, we're in the oil and gas space. There's nothing really stable. So what will be the catalyst point? I guess, when it comes to the musical side of things, the performance side of things, is this one of those things currently where it's like, hey, I enjoy doing this, I'm going to keep on doing this? Or is it like, man, I think this would be cool if I had this goal? I mean, are you setting exact goals for this, or is it just something you're just kind of digging the journey, digging the ride? Does that make sense?
I find myself just taking some time after the album, for example. I had some goals, but nothing like, hey, I need to go record my next album tomorrow. it was like, hey, now I want to get it out there. I want to get it in front of people and play some live shows. So I've taken that time, and then, a goal, and they don't have to be like a set goal. Like, I got to do this by this date. It's like, okay, I also want to make sure I continue to write songs and put songs together for the next project, whenever that may be. And so, that's somehow that's happened. And the way I write songs is, it's not, I don't sit down and think about it. It just have to be like driving down the road or something, driving to a rig or something like that. That actually happened one time. I finally wrote a song I've been wanting to write for years, and I put it on this last album that I released. But one of those.
How do you do that?
Man, it's
weird.
It's
do you have like a notepad? Do you have like voice recording? I mean, how do you compile your songs?
I usually use nowadays I usually use the notepad in my phone.
Okay.
I like to write it down. Sometimes I'll do a voice recording, but I rarely do I ever go back and listen to those unless it's like I'm driving and I can't stop and write it down.
Right.
But I like to, I like to, if I am driving, if I've got time, like pull over, write that idea down. As much as I can, let it take me where it's going to take me, write all that down. Once it's kind of like run its course, hey, I'm out of ideas here, or hey, I need to get going to do what I'm doing, especially if I'm like stop driving or something. Okay, I'll move on and I'll leave it there. And then at some point I'll feel okay, I need to go back to that and revisit that. That was, it's still kind of coming back to me in my head. I need to spend the time with it. So I'll sit down with my guitar and, maybe put that song into a structure or something where it fits, and put music to it, and then finish it out. And then I spend some time polishing it up.
What kind of music do you enjoy writing the most? Are they personal experiences? Are they stories? Are they just kind of the style of life? What kind of drives you when you're kind of creating your music and creating your songs to put on an album? Is it like just hard times that you're going through?
I think
Is
nowadays,
it kind of like I know this interview, I love it. Keep going.
No, you're good. No, it's a little bit of both, actually. It's some of it is personal experience or maybe feelings I'm having at the time, and it's not necessarily that whole song is like has to be about me and my exact experience. It's I can take observations from life and all that life experience and apply that to the song, and maybe even other people's life experience that they've shared with me or I've been a part of, and apply it to the song. And sometimes it's a complete story. And I love those kind of songs. Those are some of my favorite ones to listen to, like Robert Oak, favorite songwriters. And then that guy can, he's a fellow Aggie. I mean, great storyteller. Yep. And, recently kind of hung up the touring aspect of his musical career. And it's just, his songs, you go listen to him, man. He's got some great stories in there. He's got a great imagination. I've always considered myself to have a pretty good imagination, and it's good to get to kind of flex that muscle sometimes. Because when when you're a kid, it's you playing games and stuff and outside, and then you grow up, and it's like almost you don't have time to have an imagination.
Yeah, that's right. Your imagination is kind of stifled.
You got your kids of your own, and all these other things, but songwriting is kind of that escape where we can go flex those muscles, man. Kind of takes you back to good old days.
All right. So let me ask you a question. So we're coming up on about 40 minutes right now, kind of coming to the end. So how can people guys kind of find you, follow you, and kind of learn about your music and kind of see you perform and kind of just follow the journey?
Yeah. So the best thing to do to, if you want to tag along with the journey, especially if you're on any of the social media outlets, I'm only on the main ones: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn as well. I don't share as much music stuff on LinkedIn, of course, but right. I do occasionally share some stuff on there. But you can find me on those, and on Facebook and Instagram, it's Wesley Hanna Music. On Twitter, I believe I had to shorten it down to Wes Hanna Music, because your Twitter handle can only be so long, I guess. But either way, and a lot of those, you can find links to all those pages and all my music for that matter, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Pandora, whatever you listen to music on, it's there. You can go to my website, which is wesleyhannamusic.com. Spell Hanna backwards. It's Hanna. Gotta tell people that because happens a lot. But throw that in Google and it'll take you there, man.
All right. Well, we're gonna put those links obviously in the show notes and all that stuff. So you got any great stories from the road that you can want to end us with? Something that you're kind of sitting around, you always tell your friends and all that stuff that you want to share with us on Energy Cruise. A great story from the road or an experience that you've had that kind of stands out on this journey.
Stories from the road.
Well, the stories or experiences or just maybe even advice. I love that advice about, you got to move towards your dream for your dream to actually come true, or just any stories from the road or anything like that you want to share with us, kind of from your experience of from creating your album or from after your album was released from performing.
Yeah, let me see. Stories from the road. I mean, I'd tell you a little bit about how the Lukenbach story came to be. That's been a pretty good story. Man, I would say
I got a random one. Have you, and obviously not a lot of people like discussing this, but I think this is interesting because have you ever gone on stage and expected this is going to be an awesome show, it's going to be great and all stuff, and you bomb? Like something goes wrong, you're not clicking, something happens. Has that ever happened to you, number one? And if it has happened, how do you pick yourself up after that and kind of keep moving forward?
Yeah. When I was starting out, for sure. Yeah. I had those stories, man, where I got out there and just bombed, or I was young and dumb and maybe overserved myself before I got on stage, and have not done that in my adult life, I'll call it.
No, my wife was the same way. She is very talented at music, and before she would get on stage, she would have to numb herself with a shot or two of tequila just to get out there and do that. Obviously, not not anymore, but in her earlier career, she would have to do that.
Yeah. And or if a lot of times it's kind of like the old field. There's a lot of hurry up and wait sometimes.
Yeah.
So you get there and you get everything set up and you're like, all right, yeah, man, time to get like, hey man, what do you guys want? Oh man, let's get a pitcher of beer or something. And then you're like 3 pitchers later, you and the whole band are looking at each other like,
we gotta play.
What were we gonna play?
We gotta play again.
Yeah. So that might have happened once or twice in the college days. Lately, luckily I haven't just got up there and completely tanked, but I have gone up there and just absolutely spaced out on a song or something that everybody knows. And you're like, oh man, they're going to know I messed up. I'm playing a cover song that, everybody knows the words to. And you're like, you sing the same verse twice or something like that. You're like, sorry about that. And you just got to move on, man. It's like what, I don't know if you watched the Ted Lasso show, man. You got memory like a goldfish, man.
Memory like a goldfish.
5-second memory.
Keep moving on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This, you keep on doing shows. What is the catalyst to you when it's like, okay, well, this is like full, is it like you book a tour? Is it you book a multi-record deal with what is the catalyst to you to say, okay, well, I'm going to hang up my engineering spurs a little bit and I'm going to kind of hop on this train a little bit. What does that look like for you? Because obviously having a job is very comfortable. It's stable for your family. It's stable for your well-being. The life of a musician is very sporadic. It's not a set schedule. It's ups and downs. It's life on the road. So what is that, I guess, tipping point for you? Is there a tipping point?
Man. Is there a tipping point? I think it's probably when I'm coming financially to retire.
Take it on the road
from
then.
oil and gas. It might be. And like you said, it's stable family life. And that's number one in my life, is supporting my family and being there for my, I'm not ready to go get a tour bus and go hit the road, man, and go tour the country by any means. But it's just getting in there when I can and playing, especially here around Texas and North Texas. I try to get out to West Texas when I can. I played Midland, earlier this year, right after New Year's. Get down to the Hill Country some, get down to the Houston area some. So just getting around and doing what I can. I mean, we're playing a show in South Carolina at the end of October.
Nice.
It's a private show for some folks that we know. And
so people can book you.
Just getting around like that. But yeah, absolutely you can. Okay. My information's on the website. But yeah, I have guitar, will travel. I mean, said it's just got to make sense for my schedule. And again, my family, I try not to overextend myself that way.
Right. That's smart, actually. I mean, that's an easy way to get burned out, both professionally and personally. So, hey, look, I appreciate your time today. I know it's Friday afternoon. I want to thank everyone for tuning into Energy Crew Podcast. Again, this is Wesley Hanna. You can find him on Facebook, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I follow you. I see most of your stuff on Instagram. That's kind of where I get my Wesley Hanna updates, and I think it's great. You keep that updated with all your live shows. It's so cool seeing you out there. It's so great seeing kind of all that you're doing. It's like you're nonstop out there, and I love seeing that. And the fact that you can bounce that with a professional career, with a family, hats off to you, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate you taking the time and talking to us today.
Yeah, JP, thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast.
All right, brother. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. If you enjoyed Energy Crew Podcast, be sure to leave a message, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And be sure to check out Wesley Hanna if you're in the patch or if you're outside the patch. And he has a guitar and will travel. And we'll talk to everyone soon on Energy Crew Podcast. Oh, got to do this part.